Alright guys, so in this specific video, we are going to talk about the navigation buttons. So we can come up with some more number of buttons into our each and every single report, and via making the use of these buttons itself, we can navigate to the multiple pages. So not even from the single page, but from multiple page, if I want to navigate to a specific page, then for that, you might would have seen that in the executive dashboard itself, we came across a sidebar, right? We can simply make the use of the sidebar, and into this sidebar itself, I can come up with some buttons wherein these buttons will be helping us out to navigate to the multiple pages, right? So just like going to be a website, just like in a website, we are having this sidebar, and via making the use of the multiple buttons we are having, we can navigate to the home tab, we can navigate to the contact us page, and we can navigate to some another page, right? So just like that, we can come up with this sidebar, we can come up with these buttons so that we can come up with these custom navigation buttons. So around four number of new buttons we are going to create just because we are having four number of dashboard or report, and these buttons will be used for the navigation purpose itself. So one thing you have to notice over here, and that is you won't be creating these buttons onto the existing dashboard, right? As if I'm creating these buttons onto the existing dashboard itself, then one thing you will get to see that from this existing dashboard, I won't be able to navigate. Like for example, if I'm creating the button into the executive dashboard itself, then from this specific dashboard, I won't be able to give a navigation link or a navigation report to a specific page or to the current page itself, right? Like if I'm creating a new page, and from there if I'm associating a kind of navigation page, then I can easily associate a navigation page as my first page, that is the executive dashboard page. But if I'm trying to associate a navigation page as the executive dashboard page itself from the current page, from this specific page itself, then I won't be able to do it. So with the practical implementation, you will get to see that what do we exactly mean by that. In simple words, you can say that we won't be creating these buttons from an existing page only, as then the navigation won't happen from the selected page, right? That is something you can get in simple words, and let us look into the practical implementation so that you will get to know what exactly we are talking about, right? And one thing you have to make sure from your side, and that is if I'm clicking on a specific sidebar, so you might would have seen that we have created this sidebar in the initial videos itself, and we have provided some formatting to it. So if I'm just double clicking on this sidebar, you will get to see the format associated with this sidebar, right? And one thing you have to make sure that the width you can provide with respect to your sidebar is 45. Right, so 45 can be the default width that you can provide to your sidebar. It's completely up to you, but 45 just because it looks good. So that's why you can provide the width like this. And this formatting we are going to provide to each and every single sidebar, or to a sidebar to each and every single page. Right. So let us get into this. Let me copy my sidebar. Let us paste it in multiple pages, and over here itself, if I'm just putting my sidebar, right? Then first of all, you can put this icon on the sidebar itself. You just have to copy this sidebar on multiple pages. And with respect to this icon, let me provide the color as white, right? Let us get into the button style. In the default state, I need to provide the color, or the icon should be shown in a white color, right? So that it will be clearly visible. Okay. So now proper color is being associated with respect to our button itself, that you can see. And now one thing I would like, and now let us get into copying this sidebar onto the rest of the pages as well. So let me bring in some space. That's because we have to create these navigation buttons to each and every single dashboard, right? Let us bring in some formatting. and with respect to our product details page as well. Okay, so now we have successfully copied the sidebar into each and every single dashboard, and into this sidebar itself, we are going to keep all of the multiple icons, right? So all of the navigation buttons that we are going to create, that we will be putting onto this sidebar itself. And one more thing I would like to do over here is to simply come up to a new page. And from this new page itself, I will be putting, or I will be creating all of these multiple buttons, right? It's because one thing I have to make sure that I want a proper navigation page. I want to have the access to all of the pages from the current page. And if I'm trying to create a navigation bar or a navigation button from the existing page itself, then I won't be able to come up with a navigation page, or I won't be able to access that specific page from that specific, if I'm looking forward from a existing page itself. In order to explain you this concept, we will be looking into the practical implementation of it. First of all, let me show you that what is going to be our first button, right? Let me get into my insert tab. We are going to have this buttons, and inside these buttons itself, we are going to have this blank button, right? So at this point, we are going to work with this blank button. Let me provide it the sizing as per the sidebar width itself. And now on the default state, what exactly you want it to look like. One thing I need to do over here is to simply provide this blank button a kind of image. So there are some images which I've already kept and that we are going to provide you as well. So that image you can simply associate with respect to your blank button so that it can look a bit better, right? So icon type is going to be my custom button, custom icon, right? So whenever you're keeping the icon type as custom, you will get to see that you are having this functionality to actually come up with an image, or you can actually associate an image with respect to your button. Let me get into my browse. I'm having this folder, and from this folder itself, I want to provide the default dashboard icon. So that I'm going to open, and you can see that now we are having a image associated with respect to our button, right? So let me just drag it and drop it somewhat like this. I want to bring in some space, and beneath this first button itself, I'm going to come up with more three of the buttons so that I can come up with proper four buttons which are helping us out to navigate among these four pages, right? And once we are done with this, let me move forward wherein now I can bring in some action, right? First of all, one more thing I would like to do over here, and that is in the default state, I'm keeping it as white. But if I'm hovering over here, then I want the icon to be shown in a bluish kind of format, right? A kind of bluish kind of background should be there. And just for that, let me go forward with keeping the state as on hover. And on hover state, I need to fit in an image, and this specific image, when I'm going to hover, that is not going to be this specific dashboard icon, but the bluish kind of icon, right? So let me get into my browse. Let me first of all remove this specific icon image, and let us get into browse. And now we can have this functionality wherein we can simply select the dashboard icon blue. And in a similar way, I can simply come up with this icon. I can simply come up with this state as on press as well. And on press state, again, I want the icon to be shown as blue itself. Let us see what specific icon is there. So again, I need to provide in an image as a bluish kind of image. So let us select this dashboard icon blue itself, right? And once we are done with this, if I'm hovering, then you will get to see that a new kind of icon is being there, right? So the image that we can see on hovering is going to be a bluish kind of dashboard image. Okay, that is something you will get to see. And in a similar way, we are going to create our rest of the three buttons as well to navigate to the rest of the three pages, right? Just because we are having total four pages, and this specific button will be helping us out to navigate to the first page itself. So this is something we can have, and let me bring in some action over here so that I can navigate to specific page, right? And now let us get into providing the action. So I will be turning on my action. I want the page navigation over here, right? So type of action, I don't want to keep it as back, but I want to keep it as page navigation, and I want the destination to be as executive dashboard. So you might could remember that we were talking about that we won't be able to associate a specific navigation or a destination from the current page if you are selecting the already existing page itself. So for example, if I'm selecting the product details page, then from that specific product details page, I won't be able to navigate to product details itself, right? So that's why from this new page, I will be getting the access to all of the four pages. But if I'm on a already existing page, then I won't be able to have the access to any of the existing page, right? So that's why you always need to come up with a new page, and from that new page itself, you can come up with the access to the existing pages. So let me get into the destination as executive dashboard, and just because I want the destination to be executive dashboard itself, that's why I provided the action like this. And let us see if it is working or not. So if I'm control plus clicking, then you can see that it's working completely fine. We are now able to navigate to our first page, right? So in a similar way, we need to provide the navigation buttons for the rest of the three pages as well. So we can simply do one thing. We can copy it three times and we can paste it, right? This is something we can have. You can align these icons properly if you want to. And now with respect to the second page, I need to bring in some action. I need to provide some kind of image. So in the default state, I want it to be shown as in an image, as in a map kind of format, right? Just because this will be helping me out to navigate to the map page. Let me browse an image for it, and you can see that we are having this map icon. This map icon you have to associate with respect to its original state, right? Or its default state. And on hover, I want it to be shown in a kind of bluish format. Okay. And then finally, on press state, I want it to be shown in a bluish format again. Let me again browse the image, and I want a bluish kind of map icon. You can see now we are having a proper color associated with respect to our second icon as well. Let me bring in the action, and I want the destination to be as map at this point, right? In a similar way, I can come up with my third icon. And what exactly I can do is that I can simply associate a new image at this point. So at this point, if I'm in my default state, right? So my default state, I want the icon to be shown in a kind of products kind of image, right? So product kind of image should be associated with it. So the product icon, I'm going to associate in the default state. And along with this, we need to bring in some action. So the action will be associated with respect to our product details page, as if someone is clicking on this button, they can navigate to the product details page itself. So with respect to my on hover state, I want the bluish kind of icon to be shown. right? And once you're done with this, let me get into my on press state. And on press state itself, I want the icon to be shown as bluish kind of icon, right? And you can see that we have associated a proper action with respect to it, that on clicking on this button, we should navigate to the product details page, right? And finally, we need to come up with our fourth icon, wherein this fourth icon will be helping us out to navigate to our customer details page, right? First of all, let me bring in some formatting. Let us provide its default state. With respect to its default state, let us provide some associate an image to it. Okay. I want the destination to be our customer details. In a similar way, if my state is on hover, I want the icon to be shown into a bluish format. Let us keep it as customer icon blue. And again, with respect to my on press state, I want the icon to be shown as in a bluish format again, right? Now, once I'm done with this, if I'm hovering over here, you can see a kind of bluish kind of image, and a kind of proper action will now be associated with respect to our each and every single button that we are having, right? And now one thing we have to do over here, right? And that is we need to simply associate all of these multiple icons together into a single group itself, right? So if I'm associating these multiple icons together into a single group, then that specific group I'm going to associate with respect to my four different pages, right? So that I don't have to copy it manually. I don't have to copy each and every single icon manually, right? I can simply copy all of these icons together, and I can simply group it into a single group itself, so that just because the purpose that all of these four icons that is coming out to be the same itself, right? They are helping us out to navigate among the multiple pages. So that's why we can group it together. So let me just control plus click onto all of these icons. So one thing you can see that we are able to navigate to the multiple pages. Let me select all of these four icons, and now we can come up with the proper grouping. So let me group it together. Let me group these four buttons together, and we can name this group as my custom navigation buttons. You can name it as custom navigation buttons or the navigation buttons. It's completely up to you. Okay. And once you have named it like this, you can simply copy this custom navigation button, and you will get to see that on each and every single page you can simply put it. Okay. And you will get to see that in each and every single page you will get to see this custom navigation buttons. And that's why we were asking you to come up with a proper formatting for the sidebar to be the same on each and every single page. And one more thing I would like to show to you over here itself, and that is, if I'm clicking on this button, right? If I'm not control plus clicking, and then if I'm just clicking on it, and if I'm looking into the formatting of it, then you can see one thing, and that is, if you're trying to create a new button, right? For example, if you're trying to create a new button over here itself, then you won't be able to see the navigation or the action to get to navigate to this specific current page. Let me show it to you. So let me show it to you in a practical way. So if I'm inserting a new button over here, right, as a blank button, okay. And now with respect to this blank button, if I want the action to be there as a navigation button, then you can see that we are not able to have the destination as my executive dashboard. And that was what something we were talking about. So from my executive dashboard, I'm not able to navigate, or if I'm trying to create this blank button on this page, I won't be able to navigate to my current page. And that was the reason why we were looking into creating these pages, or we were looking into creating these four different buttons from a new page, right? So now let us see if this specific buttons are working completely fine or not. So if I'm clicking onto my second button, that is a map icon, I'm able to navigate to my map dashboard itself. If I'm clicking on this third page, I'm able to navigate to over here. And then if I'm clicking over here, I'm able to navigate to my customer details page. One thing you might would have seen that with respect to my product details page, if I'm clicking on it, I'm able to see this map kind of icon, right? So there is some kind of formatting change I need to bring in, right? I need to bring in some formatting to this specific button. On press state, the icon shouldn't have the map icon blue, but it should have the icon to be shown as our product icon blue, right? And now if I'm getting into my customer details page, and from that customer details page, if I'm clicking onto this specific button, you can see that we are able to see a proper icon, right? So that's exactly how you can come up with your custom navigation buttons. It's going to be a bit useful for you, definitely. And you can see a kind of dashboard which is behaving similar to that of a website. Just like in the website, you might would have seen that they are having this sidebars which help the user out in navigating to multiple pages. So that's how you can come up with these buttons as well. And we can have a kind of proper navigation kind of sidebar with us. So that would be all regarding the custom navigation buttons, and let us meet in the next video with some more important insights. So thank you. All right, guys. So in the last video, we were looking upon these custom navigation buttons, right? That how we can simply make the use of these buttons so that we can navigate to the multiple report pages we are having. So by clicking on a specific button, we can simply navigate to a specific report. That is something completely up to us. And now, if I'm looking forward to a specific button which can help me provide with multiple slicers, right? So for example, if I want to bring in some filters, I want to apply some filters over here into this specific dashboard itself. And now with respect to this dashboard, when I will be applying the filters via making the use of slicers, then for the slicer, I require some kind of space, right? As you can see that, but this particular dashboard is not at all having any space right now, and it's being cluttered right now, right? So if you're trying to import any of the slicer at this point, then that won't make any sense, right? But if the executive is quite interested in this information, that we want to see the details as per a specific year, or let us say as per a specific continent, then in that particular case, what exactly you can do? You simply need to come up with a slicer, right? There is no choice for you. So you need to come up with an option wherein simply you can come up with a button, right? That button you can attach to your sidebar, and on clicking onto that button, you can get a kind of option that whenever I'm going to click on that button, you will get to see these multiple slicers, and these multiple slicers will be helping you out to apply the filter on any basis. So we are taking two examples over here. We can go forward with the year as a filter, or we can go forward with a continent as a filter. So this is the kind of choice we are making. You can simply come up with any of the filter or any of the slicer that you want, or in which the executive is quite interested in, right? But definitely we can come up with that. And right now we will be looking into that how we can come up with a new button. So this new button will be helping us out to come up with multiple slicers. Wherein on clicking on that button, I will be getting a kind of panel, right? So this panel will be consisting of these multiple slicers, and then these multiple slicers will be helping us out to make some changes into the visuals that we are having on the similar dashboard itself. So for this specific video, we are going to look upon the slicer panel, right? So that button is going to behave as a kind of slicer itself, and just because it is being used for coming up with multiple slicers, so that's why I will be naming it as slicer panel. So this slicer panel helps us in adding multiple slicers as associating these multiple slicers with, we are going to associate these multiple slicers with respect to a button itself, right? That's why we are referring this to as a slicer panel itself. And I will be showing it to you that how we can, you can simply click on a button, you will get to see the slicer panel, and you can come up with this back button. And on clicking onto that back button, you can get to your original state itself, right? So let us go forward with the insert option. And now with respect to this insert ribbon, we are going to have this buttons option. And with respect to this button itself, I'm going to have this blank button, right? So now you can simply make the use of this blank button, right? And this blank button will be helping you out to come up with a proper slicer panel. So first of all, with respect to this blank button, I need to provide it a kind of an image, right? Just like with respect to the previous buttons, we were providing an image. In a similar way, with respect to this button as well, this blank button, I will be providing an image to it. So let me bring in the action. The action it will be having is with respect to a bookmark. Bookmark, which is going to represent a slicer panel state, right? And with respect to button style, I need to provide it a proper image. So on default state, how exactly I want it to be shown, right? First of all, let us look upon that. Again, a similar kind of changes you have to make just like the previous video. With respect to my icon, I need to provide an image to it, right? So with respect to my default state, I need to keep the icon type as a custom. Okay. And as soon as you're going to keep your icon type as custom, you can simply move forward with this option, that is browse option. And why I'm making the use of this option itself, just because we are in our default state at this point. So I will be keeping this white color of filter icon, right? So you can simply enlarge it if you want to, so that it can completely fit into your sidebar itself. And now with respect to this specific custom type, this icon type, you will get to see that on clicking on it, you will get to see the so as soon as you're going to click on this button, you will get to see your multiple slicers, which you are not able to fit over here, just because we are already having a lot of spacing over here, right? So let us look into this thing, that how we can associate that specific slicer panel with respect to this button, right? But I want to bring in some more changes as well. I need to look into this thing, that when the state is going to be on hover state, at that point of time, what image I will get to see, right? So at that point of time, I need to keep the filter icon as blue. And in a similar way, when I'm on a press state, I want the icon to be shown as filter icon blue itself. So that's exactly how you can import these multiple images with respect to these buttons. So it's completely up to you, right? So these images we are definitely going to provide you from our side only, and you will get to see that as soon as you're going to hover over here, you'll get to see that how on hovering and on clicking, a kind of bluish kind of format you will get to see, right? So this is something you can do from your side, and let us move forward, wherein on clicking on that button, how exactly you can come up with a slicer panel. So as soon as I'm going to click on the slicer panel, you will get to see these multiple slicers. That is so we have to simply import these multiple slicers. We need to first of all import a rectangle, right? So we are going to insert a rectangle. Onto that rectangle itself. We are going to insert these multiple buttons, right? So let us get into our insert button, and with respect to our insert button itself, I'm going to make the use of this rectangle. So you can simply go forward with the shape at this point. Shape seem to be a better option, right? And with respect to your shape, you can simply insert a rectangle over here. You can decide what is going to be the length or what is going to be the width for your rectangle that you want. So if I'm clicking onto my button itself, I want the slicer panel to be shown like this. So you can bring in some formatting to this specific rectangle itself. So you won't be able to see, so in a default view, whenever you are in your dashboard, you won't be able to see this rectangle placed over here, right? But the thing is that as soon as you're going to click on that button, only at that point of time, you will get to see this kind of rectangle, which is consisting of these multiple slicers. But the formatting we need to provide at this point only, so that we can simply associate a bookmark with respect to this rectangle. And when I'm in my default state, when I'm not exactly clicking onto this button, then at that point of time, you can simply associate a bookmark, right? So in that way, you can simply come up with a proper initial state or with respect to the slicer state, right? So first of all, I need to bring in some formatting. So you need to come up with this shape style. So first of all, you have to click onto this rectangle itself, right? You can double click on it. You can simply format this shaping if you want to. And with respect to this filling, I want the color to be shown matching with respect to my format. So I want a kind of grayish kind of format to be shown. So you always have to make sure about this thing that each and every single visual that is there onto your dashboard should match with respect to the rest of the visuals that you are having, right? So that's why you can come up with this color over here. There is no need to provide any kind of transparency. And with respect to this specific rectangle only, I'm going to come up with my multiple slicers, which will be providing me with the inside of the year and the continent, right? So with respect to your home ribbon itself, you can come up with these multiple slicers. So first of all, you can click over here onto your canvas. And on clicking onto your canvas itself, you can come up with these multiple options, wherein now you can simply import your slicer, right? So you can see over here itself. So one more thing you can do over here, that either you can come up with that option or you can simply make the use of, okay, let us move forward with this. You can see that we are going to have these two kind of slicers. So this slicer we won't be exploring at this point just because it is a kind of upgradation which just came from Power BI last year only. So this slicer we will be looking into, and just a similar kind of slicer that we were creating in the previous videos only, that we are going to create over here as well. So let us provide the proper formatting to the slicer in a way such that it can properly fit with respect to our slicer panel itself. And we are going to copy it two times, right? We are going to copy it again so that we can create a slicer in terms of continent as well. So year can be one of the filter, but again, continent is something we need to come up with as our second slicer. Okay, so now we need to add the data. And with respect to my data, I need to add continent over here, right? Continent can be the first field, or it's better if you're keeping year as your first field with respect to your slicer, right? So a kind of formatting I would like to keep. So this kind of formatting of slicer I won't be keeping at this point. So I will be getting into my slicer settings. Let us provide it in a kind of drop down option. If it is coming out to be fine, no. A vertical list. Vertical list seems fine, right? So via making the use of the slicer only, I will be able to filter out the records as per the requirement of the executive, right? So now we need to provide some kind of formatting to my slicer as well. So let me click on the slicer. You have to come up with proper formatting towards it so that it can perfectly fit and it can look way much better into our grayish kind of background, right? So let us look upon the size and styling. First of all, with respect to my background, I want to turn it off. Okay, that seems quite fine, but the values I will be properly showing, right? With respect to my values that are there, that is the multiple values which I'm having onto my slicer, that is something I'm going to highlight. I'm going to provide a proper highlighting to it. So with respect to my values only. So this slicer header you can simply remove if you want to. Just because you can easily get this idea, right? That what exactly this slicer is representing to us. So the font color, I want to keep it as white. Okay. And you can simply keep the formatting or the font as Sego UI bold. That seems quite fine, right? And on clicking onto any of the ear, you will get to see the filter applied or the changes happening on all of the visuals that are present in your dashboard itself. Okay. So this is going to be the first slicer that you're going to have. So one more thing you can do over here, and that is you can simply check it out that whether if the slicer is working completely fine or not. So with respect to my year 2020, I can see what was the revenue I was generating, what was the number of orders I was getting. So all of these important numbers or this important insight I can show in front of the stakeholder itself. Okay. So this is working completely fine. So I will be creating a new. So I will be bringing in one more change, that what if we are interested in looking forward to the information of all of these years, right? So I need to come up with a select all option as well, right? And just for that, let me get into my slicer settings. And with respect to selection, you can see that we are having this show select all, right? So I want to show the select all option as well with respect to the years. So that's why I will be coming up with this specific option as well. So once we are done with creating this particular slicer, let us again create a new slicer which will be representing the information with respect to the continent. Okay. So at this point, I'm not exactly interested in showing the year, but I'm interested in showing the continent, right? And now you can have all of the continents so that you can apply the filter in that way only. So you're definitely going to have multiple slicers over here itself. But one thing I would like to do over here, and that is thinking of providing it a kind of shadow over here as well, right? We haven't actually looked upon that. If you're providing a shadow to our slicer, then how exactly it would look like, right? Let us look into that, how it will be looking like. And first of all, let me click over here onto my slicer itself. And with respect to my slicer, I'm going to provide it a kind of shadow. Okay. Let us look upon this thing, that how exactly we can provide it a shadow. And you can see that we are having this shadow option. So you can simply provide it a shadow, and let us see how exactly it is looking like. If I'm providing it a kind of shadow in this specific color, okay, it seems quite fine. And again, with respect to my, okay, let us change the color for its shadow. If I'm keeping it in proper black color, okay, a kind of shadow is being formed associated. This is not something compulsory. We are just looking upon this thing that we want to bring in the shadow, how exactly it would look like, right? Okay. Now we have associated the shadow as well. The first information we were providing was with respect to the year, and the second information that we are providing is with respect to the continent. Now I need to come up with the back button as well, so that as soon as I'm going to click over here onto a back button, I will be able to reach to my original state itself, right? Let us look upon that, how we can come up with the back button. So in the insert ribbon itself, we are going to have this option to import these multiple buttons. So I can have this reset button, right? Reset button will be helping me out to come back to my original state itself, or I can come up to my left arrow, right? Left arrow seems quite fine. So it's completely up to you if you want to make the use of reset button or the left arrow. That's completely up to you. Left arrow in this specific case might seem a kind of good approach. So that's why left arrow I'm going to keep over here, so that you will get to see that as soon as I'm going to click on this left arrow, you will get to see your slicer panel getting hidden. Okay. So let us bring in some formatting to my left arrow as well. Background If you want to keep it, you can keep it. That is completely up to you. And I need to bring in some changes into the formatting. First of all, you have to click over here. And now I need to bring in some formatting. In the action, I will be definitely associating my bookmark. And with respect to my icon, I want to keep it as white. Okay. Shadow, if you want to provide, that is again something completely up to you. On press, it will become white color. By default as well, I want it to be white color only. Let us show it as white only, and on pressing it as well, it will be looking as white only, right? I put icon type, I'm going to define, and the action I'm going to define first of all, and on hovering as well, it should look like in a white color itself, right? Again, the line color I'm going to keep as white only as soon as I'm going to hover over here as well. And now once I'm done with this is the kind of formatting I need to provide. This seems quite fine, right? I mean, I'm able to see the details, or I will be able to see the information. So as soon as I'm going to click on that button, that filter button, so I will be able to see the specific state. So I want to see the specific state in this specific scenario, so that as soon as I'm going to click on that filter button, so I will be having this option wherein I will get to see this kind of slicer panel getting created. So by making the use of the slicer panel, whatever information the stakeholder is asking us, I can simply click on this button. I will show them the information that they want to see with respect to the multiple filters that we are applying with respect to the continent or with respect to year. Okay. So let us move forward with creating a bookmark so that we can define the state at this particular point, that what will happen as soon as I'm going to click on that filter button that is there on my sidebar, right? So let me get into my bookmarks. And one thing you can see again, you need to focus upon one thing, that why exactly I'm keeping a bookmark at this point, just because this is the particular state I want to be shown whenever I'm going to click on that filter button, right? So as soon as I'm going to click on the filter button, I want this particular state to be shown, wherein this particular slicer panel should be shown at that specific point itself. So that's why I'm creating the bookmark at this particular state or at this particular point only. So let me add the bookmark. Let us name this bookmark as show slicer panel. Okay. And now this show slicer panel I need to associate with respect to my rectangle and this complete number of shapes, right? So one thing you can do first of all is that you can simply associate, right? You can simply associate these multiple rectangle slicers and the back button together into a single group itself. So let me click on these multiple visuals. Okay. Shift plus click onto this specific visual, then on this specific visual, then on the, okay. I think it will be a better approach if you're clicking on the slicer first, slicer 2, then on the back button, and then on the rectangle. Okay, now once you have chosen it, you can simply group it. And now it is all being selected together, and let me group it in a similar group itself. And you can call it as slicer panel, as that is something we are going to name it as, right? For a slicer panel, you can again copy into your multiple other visuals as well, or into your other report as well. As at this point, we are keeping the slicer panel at for this specific report itself. But if you want to, then you can copy it in the other dashboard as well, right? That is something completely up to you. And now once we're done with this, we need to bring in some kind of action to my original state with respect to this back button as well, right? So first of all, I need to look upon this information that how I can exactly associate this particular state or this particular formatting with respect to my bookmark, right? So one thing is over here wherein now once you have associated all of these multiple shapes together, so there is going to be a one thing. There's going to be one thing wherein now you want to return to your original state, right? Original state wherein these multiple options, this rectangle, these multiple slicers or the back button won't be shown. And what exactly you can do for it? You can simply click on this hide option. So if you're clicking on this hide option, you will get to see your original state, right? This is something you can do. And now this is going to be the original state that we are going to associate with respect to my back button. So at this point, just because this is going to be the state that I will be getting to when I'm clicking on the back button, that's why I will be making sure about one thing that at this point only, I'm going to create my new bookmark. Okay. And I'm going to name this bookmark. I'm going to add it and let us name it as hide slicer panel. Okay. Once we're done with this, let me move forward with associating these multiple bookmarks with respect to the multiple buttons. So now with respect to my filter view, I want to associate this show slicer panel, right? So with respect to action, I want to bring in the action with respect to a specific bookmark, and that bookmark is going to be show slicer panel, right? And in a similar way, when I'm looking into my bookmarks that is show slicer panel, and one more thing I would like to do over here is that as soon as I'm going to get into my back state, right? Like for example, if I'm choosing some filter over here, if I'm choosing a specific accessories, let us go forward with. So if I'm choosing the category as accessories and if some filter is already applied, and then from the slicer option, if I'm clicking on the back button, right? So I don't want that we should return to this specific original state only. As the filter which is being applied, like if the accessories filter is being applied and the other visuals have been altered because of this specific filter, then I don't want that state to get changed, right? Or I don't want the visuals to get changed. And that's why from here, I will be simply removing that data option. You can see that as soon as I'm going to click on these three options, you can have this option of data. So I don't want to alter any changes onto the data as soon as I'm going to click on the back button of the slicer, right? That's why you will be simply deselecting your data from here. In a similar way with respect to hide slicer panel as well, I don't want the changes to be seen into this data. I just want the changes to be seen that the slicer panel should be shown and then the slicer panel should be hidden. That is my only motto. Okay. Now once we are done with this, let me move forward with clicking onto this button. Let us see if it is working completely fine or not. Now this show slicer panel is something you have to associate with respect to this button, right? So action is going to be bookmark. You have to show the slicer panel. And now one more thing I would like to do over here, and that is I want that hide slicer panel to be associated with respect to my slicer panel that I was showing. Let us get into my selection tab. Let us first of all show this visual. Okay. And now with respect to this back button that I can see over here, with respect to this back button, I want to associate the action to be as the hide slicer panel button, right? Or that bookmark I want to associate. Let me associate the action. The action should be shown with respect to this hide slicer panel option. So let me associate the bookmark over here itself. That bookmark will be showing the details as hide slicer panel. Okay. Let us see if it is working completely fine or not. Okay. So if I'm clicking onto this button, control plus click, you can see that this slicer panel is now being hidden. As soon as I'm clicking onto this specific button, okay, this is something we need to look upon, right? Why exactly it is not working. Show slicer panel should work, right? Show slicer panel was actually that specific state wherein we were exactly showing that visual, right? We were showing that rectangle to be associated. Let me get into my selection tab again. Slicer panel, I don't want it to be hidden, right? As soon as I'm going to click over here, I don't want it to be hidden, right? Okay, just because this is being hidden, right? Just because this is being hidden, and that's why I'm not able to see it. That is the issue. One thing you can see that our back button is working completely fine, and that is as soon as I'm going to click on this control plus, as soon as I'm going to come up with this control plus click, I'm able to get back to my original state. But as soon as I'm going to click on this specific button, the slicer panel is getting hidden, right? But I want it to be shown, right? So one thing I can do, and that is, what if I can come up with a bookmark again, which is showing this specific state itself, right? Let me get into my bookmark. Let us simply delete this show slicer panel, right? And let us again add the bookmark as show slicer panel. Okay. Now this particular state we have kept, and let us see how exactly it is working. So I'm going to come up with this specific slicer panel itself, right? And let us get back into my original state first of all. And with respect to this specific button, I want to associate my show slicer panel, right? That is something I want, right? So let us click over here. Let me click on this button. And on clicking onto this button, I want the action to be shown. On pressing it, I want that a bookmark should be shown, and that bookmark is going to be show slicer panel, right? And let us see if it is working completely fine or not. Now it's working completely fine, right? Now we are able to see a proper state. So there are going to be some changes that you can make from your side if you want to. And let us see that if I'm clicking on this back button, I'm able to reach to my original state. And as I'm clicking onto this filter button, I can see these multiple slices getting applied. You can do one thing, you can simply click over here. You will get to see the information getting changed. So whatever information the stakeholder or the executive is quite interested in, by applying the filters with respect to year or continent, yeah, now you can simply show this information to the stakeholder or the executive itself. That's exactly how you can work with it, right? You can simply make the use of the slicer panels to come up with some more number of visuals which you can't exactly display in your report itself. Okay. So that would be all regarding this slicer panel. You can definitely check it out from your side if you are facing any issue while building this specific slicer panel, you can again look into this specific video only. And one more thing I would like to do again into my bookmark with respect to my show slicer panel, I want that the data shouldn't be altered. That's I'm going to uncheck it, right? Let me click over here. I'm able to see the slicer panel. Let me click over here, control plus click. I'm able to reach back to my original state, right? So that would be all regarding the slicer panel, and let us meet in the next video with some more informative content. So thank you. All right, guys. So today we are going to get started with a new topic, and that is going to be a parameter. So if I'm explaining about the parameter, so you can simply refer a parameter as a value, or basically these parameters will be helping you or allowing you to create these variables which can be referenced in these measurements, and it can be controlled via these slicers, right? So we are going to have two kind of parameters. Either we can have the numeric parameter or we can have the field parameter, right? So while I'm explaining you about the numeric parameter, let us say that there is a specific product and the product price is coming out to be as 100 rupees. And now the company is planning to provide a discount to that specific product itself, wherein now this specific product will be sold at a discount of 10%, right? So now the product which is going to be sold at 100 rupees will now be sold at around 90 rupees, right? Or the product price which was already at as 100 is now going to be as 90, just because I'm coming up with a discount percentage of 10, right? In a similar way, if I'm planning to provide a discount of 20, then you can simply see the changes, or you can simply see the variation in the value of the product price, right? So on bringing in and discount of 20%, we can see the product price to be 80 rupees. In a similar way, on bringing in and discount of 30%, we can see the product price to be 70 rupees. And in a similar way, if I'm trying to increase the product price by 10%, then you can expect the price to be as 110. In a similar way, if you're trying to increase the product price with respect to 60%, then you can expect the product price to be as 160 rupees. So what exactly we're looking upon is by simply varying the values, right? What exactly we are varying is the discount value on, and what exactly we are varying is a value which we can increase as a kind of profit value, so that we can simply look into that what can come up as our new product price, right? Is this something we can have? So if the company is quite interested in this insight that on varying the value with respect to a discount, what is the new product price that we can expect out to be? Right? So that is something we used to discuss in the case of numeric parameters. So whenever you're going to have this numeric parameter, you can simply make the use of this numeric parameter so that you can simply create these variables. So these variables are going to be these varying values. That is going to be the discount value, right? That is 10%, 20%, and all of these multiple discount values, right? And then you can simply refer it into a measurement itself. And then if you want to control these values, then you can make the use of the slicers, right? So this 10%, 20%, and all of these values that you can see that you can simply control via making the use of the slicers itself. And then on controlling these values and on bringing the changes with respect to these values, you can see that how exactly you can come up with the new price, right? How exactly you can come up with a new product price. So in this way, we can have two kind of parameters, right? Either we can come up with the numeric parameter or we can come up with the field parameter. So first of all, the numeric parameter is going to be used for the scenario testing, wherein the users can adjust these numeric inputs to see the impact on a given output. So that is something we have already discussed about, wherein you will be changing the value for the discount percentage or the discount value, and then you can see that what is going to be the new output product price. So minus 10, minus 20, minus 30, or plus 10, plus 20, plus 30, that is something you can define, or that is something you can select into the slicer itself. And then you can see that what is coming out to be our new revenue, or what is coming out to be our new product price, or what can be the new profit that you can gain, right? So you can see these important output values, right? And just like these numeric parameters, we can have one more kind of parameter, and that is going to be a field parameter, right? So with respect to these field parameters, what exactly you can have is via making the use of this field parameter only, you can basically, or it basically allows the users so that they can dynamically change these metrics or these dimensions which are being displayed in a report visual, right? So, for example, you might would have seen that in the case of table measure itself, we have created so many number of fields, right? Like we came up with total profit, then we came across total orders, total revenue, total returns, and then return percentage as well. So these are the multiple fields that we have created, right? Now, with respect to these varying fields or with respect to these varying values, what can be the expecting trending value or what output value we can expect out of it? So that is something we are going to discuss about. So how we can adjust these values or how we can dynamically change these values of these multiple fields, that is something we are going to look upon in this video. So we are going to discuss about these field parameters, and one more thing about field parameter is that whenever you are going to create this field parameter, Power BI basically adds a kind of report slicer, okay, and then it generates a new measure. So the thing is that you always have to create a kind of field parameter, and then you will get to see that the report slicer is directly being added by Power BI itself. So there is a kind of check-in option wherein you can simply check that if you want to automatically add a kind of slicer or not with respect to this field parameter. And then via making the use of the slicer itself, you can simply adjust the value or you can select the value for these multiple fields, and then you can see the output to be shown into the rest of the visuals or into a specific visual as well. Right. So by making the use of the slicer itself, you can simply capture the selected value, and that is something we are going to look upon in this specific video itself. So we are going to discuss about the field parameter, and now we are going to come up with a kind of metric selection. So metric selection will be displaying all of these multiple fields, and we can add it to the y-axis itself. And then basically users can dynamically change those values and they can see that what changes it is bringing in. Right. So let us look upon these different kind of parameters, and you can see that we are having these multiple ribbons over here, right? We are having this insert ribbon, modeling ribbon, view ribbon. So the ribbon that we are going to make the use of to create this parameter is going to be a modeling ribbon, right? So you can see that we are having this new parameter option over here, and what exactly we are interested in at this point is going to be this field parameter, right? So what do you exactly want to adjust from our side, or what is going to be our variable that we are going to vary is going to be these fields, right? And you can now come up with a new name for your parameter or your field parameter. So we are going to name it as product metric selection. Okay. This name you can provide from your side. Any name it can be. That's completely up to you. I'm naming it as product metric selection, right? Just because I'm creating it on the product page, and I'm coming up with this metric selection. So now from here itself, you can select all of your multiple fields which you want to vary, and then if you want to see the changes happening. So first of all, I want to show my total orders. That is going to be the first metric which I want to vary. Then secondly, I want to represent the total revenue. Then total profit I'm interested in. And then total returns I want to see. And then you can look upon the return rate as well. Right? So these are going to be the different fields in which I'm quite interested in, and I want a kind of slicer over here as well. So a slicer will be helping us out to adjust these values. We can simply adjust these values via making the use of the slicer itself, and then we can see the changes happening on the rest of the visuals. Okay, so you can directly take this option, right? If you're not exactly checking in this option, then you won't be able to see a kind of slicer via making the use of which you can adjust these values, right? So that's why it's always important to check in the specific option, right? So let us now create my new slicer over here itself, and let us see what exactly we are getting. So absolutely, we need to bring in some space for it, and I will be adjusting these profit trending and returns trending, right? So that I can get some space over here. So you can see that as soon as I'm going to come up with this new parameter, or as soon as I'm going to come up with this new metric, Power BI automatically creates in the backend as my new table. So this table will be representing all of those measurements, right? So Power BI is itself capable to come up with this new table as soon as we are going to create this new parameter. Okay. So first of all, let me bring in some space for it, and let us adjust these different charts that we are having. We can keep it up till here. Similarly for our returns trending as well. Okay, this seems quite fine, and now I want to bring in some kind of formatting over here, right? So let me bring in some formatting. First of all, let us see how exactly it is working. So if I'm keeping total profits over here, or if I'm keeping total revenue over here, right? So we need to see that how exactly these values are bringing in some changes. And I would like to show it to you that how you can add these values into your y-axis, right? At this point, we are just looking upon the information with respect to the date, right? And at this point, we are just looking upon the information with respect to returns trending. Okay. But what if you want to view the information wherein you are looking upon the orders as well, revenue as well, profit as well, returns as well, and return rate as well? That what was the number of orders I was getting with respect to time, what was the revenue I was generating, profit, returns, return rate. So if you want to vary, if you want to simply look upon these multiple values with respect to your chart, then what exactly you can do is that you can simply come over here and into your y-axis. You can simply remove this total returns, and then the new table that has been created, that is product metric solution, you can add on these values. Okay. And now one thing you can see over here, and that is if I want to see total revenue, then what is the revenue I'm getting, right? What is the revenue I'm getting into a specific month, that you can simply see. What is the profit I'm getting into a specific month? What is the returns? And then return rate, right? So each and every single insight you can see by just varying the values into your slicer itself. But definitely you won't be getting these multiple options directly, as getting these options directly or automatically is not exactly possible. So that's why this parameter will be helping you out in creating such kind of slicers wherein you can directly vary the value for this wherein you can simply vary the value for these multiple variables or this metric, and you can see the changes happening onto your different kind of charts, right? So let me bring in some changes over here. Let me provide some kind of formatting to it so that it will look way much better, right? As compared to the current visual that we are having. So you can simply double click over here itself. You will get to see the option for the formatting, right? Slicer header, if you want to keep, that is completely up to you. This seems quite fine, so I will be keeping it like that. Let us increase the size for it. Product metric solution. I want to keep it as Sego UI bold. Okay, let us go forward with Sego UI only then. Okay, this seems quite fine. And if you want to add some background as well, that is also something up to you with respect to the values. This is something you can keep again. And one more thing I would like to do over here, and that is with respect to my product metric solution, if I'm just looking into this specific code, right? So one thing I would like to do over here, and that is I don't want to show total orders over here, and I want to show this orders, right? That seems quite better information as compared to showing this total revenue. Let me show orders, let me show revenue, then the profit that we are gaining, then the number of returns we are having or total returns we are having, and then return percentage. Okay, let us bring in these changes. Let us see what exactly we are getting through this. You can see some changes happening, right? And now you can see that into your returns trending, you can see each and every single insight at a specific point itself. So if you're not choosing this specific option, you won't be able to see. So at this point, you can see the multiple kind of visuals, right? The multiple kind of insights at the same point. But just because I'm quite interested in looking forward to the information that what is the profit I'm gaining with respect to time, right? So that's why I can simply come up with this selection option. Okay. Let me select it, my product metrics solution. Now, if you want to come up with some more changes, you can keep it like that. I want to bring in some changes wherein I want to keep it as in a kind of grayish format. With respect to my values, I want to keep it in a white color, right? You can keep it as bold as well if you want to. That's completely up to you. And the slicer, if you want to bring in some changes into the transparency, that is also something you can do, right? 10% seems quite fine. You can keep it like that. 10% you can also keep for your selected product metric as well. That is again something up to you. And now with respect to the slicer header, you can simply keep the font color as white only. Okay. Let us see how exactly it is looking like. Okay, this seems quite fine, and we can just simply adjust the size, right? So that we won't be able to see this option. Okay. So now you're having a product metric solution. You can simply look upon the values with respect to profit, returns, return percentage. So if you want to, you can simply delete this specific graph as well, just because right now you are able to see the complete insight with respect to profit, returns, return percentage, revenue, and orders into a specific or into a single graph itself. So there is not even any point to bring in this profit trending graph, right? To look into the information. As the complete information, I can look into one of the graph itself. Okay. And there is one more change I need to bring in, and that is just because orders, if the orders is increasing, then that is a kind of great information, right? In a similar way, if the revenue is increasing, profit is increasing, then that is a kind of insight or a kind of good insight that you're getting. But if the number of returns is increasing or the return percentage is increasing, then that is something we don't really want. So as per that, what insight we are quite interested in, or what is exactly coming out to be beneficial for us, as per that as well, we can provide some kind of formatting. So if the orders is increasing, then I can provide some kind of formatting over here. First of all, I need to bring in some changes over here. I want to keep it as trending metrics. That seems quite fine, right? And now over here, I need to bring in some changes wherein the shade area, color, I want to keep it as grayish, right? Just because if the orders is coming out to be like this, we it's a kind of good information. That is something we are quite interested in. So we can keep it like this. In a similar way for revenue, again, it's a kind of great information. I want to keep it like this in a grayish format. Then with respect to profit, again the similar thing. But returns is something which I don't want it to be increasing, and it's not exactly a kind of good information or kind of a beneficial thing for us. So that's why I will be bringing in some changes into the color. Okay. So you shouldn't actually bring in the changes into your slicer, and the changes you should bring is in your line chart, right? So that's why I will be bringing in the color as the reddish kind of color, right? Just because this information is something that we are, or this kind of metric is something with which we are quite not, it's not exactly coming out to be beneficial for us. So that's why I'm keeping it as reddish kind of color. In a similar way, with respect to my return percentage, I can also keep it in a similar way, wherein the color I will be showing is going to be reddish, right? Once we're done with this info, we can see that how we are exactly coming up with our trending metrics. Return percentage, revenue, returns, profit, revenue, and then orders. Each and every single insight you can see, right? And now there is no point to keep our profits trending over here just because the complete information we can see into our trending metrics itself. We can increase its size if you want to, right? And with respect to quarter, you are displaying this information, right? Now you can bring in some space over here. You can simply align it together. All of these changes you can make from your side, right? And this seems quite fine right now. We can see the complete trending metrics with respect to orders, what I'm getting, what with respect to revenue, what I'm getting, profit, with respect to start of quarter in the returns and return percentage, right? So that's exactly how you can work with these field parameters. You can simply adjust these values and you can see the different kind of performance. You can see the performance variation with respect to time, with respect to the multiple fields that you have created. So that's why parameters is quite important so that you can simply work with these multiple fields by including your slicer itself and by adjusting the values in your slicer, right? So that would be all regarding the different kind of parameters you can have, and let us meet in the next video with some more important insights. So thank you. All right, guys. So let us get into our ninth assignment, and this will be regarding the field parameters. So we are going to discuss about each and every single key objective that we are having. So the first key objective states that we need to add a new field parameter with the name as customer metric solution, which includes the total customers and average revenue per customer, right? So these are going to be the two fields that we need to add into our field parameters, right? So it's easy. We have already discussed about these things, that how you can simply make the use of this modeling ribbon. From there itself, you can come up with your field parameters, and then you simply have to drag and drop. Or you can simply add these parameters directly from there itself. It's not exactly going to be too much stuff. Then the second key objective states that we need to add the parameter as a slicer to the customer detail report and change the slicer style to tile. Then we turn off the header, update to a single select, and resize to create a horizontal layout. It's not exactly too much difficult. You can simply come up with this, and by a horizontal layout, you already might be aware about this thing, right? Just like the multiple columns are being shown into a complete horizontal layout, that layout you need to simply come up with, right? It shouldn't be vertical like a previous one, but it should be a kind of horizontal layout. So horizontally should be placed. For that formatting you need to come up with, again, it's not too much difficult. Then we need to select the tax measure automatically created and update the text from average revenue per customer to revenue per customer. Again, we have looked upon this thing, that how exactly the table is being created from Power BI itself at the back end, and then how we can exactly change the values, or how we can change the name of these multiple parameters it is consisting of. So again, it's a bit easy one, and then we need to update the line chart y-axis to use the customer metric selection parameter, remove the chart title, and update the line colors to match the solution preview. Okay, so each and every single insight we have already discussed about, and let us look into a solution walkthrough as well. So you can see the solution walkthrough, how exactly we want it to look like. Again, it's a bit easy one. You can simply create a chart like this, and just have a look over here, and let us meet in the next video with the solution preview, or with the solution walkthrough of our ninth assignment, right? So that would be all with respect to the assignment, and thank you. All right, guys, let's get started with the solution walkthrough of our ninth assignment. So the first key objective is to add a new field parameter with the name as customer metric solution, which includes total customers and average revenue per customer, right? So let's get into our customer details page. And one more thing you can see over here that we have added this page one, right? When we were trying to create this sidebar and we were adding these multiple navigation tools, right? Just because we have already copied it and pasted it, so there's no point to keep this page at this point. So that's why we will be simply removing it, right? You can simply delete the page by this cross option. You can simply delete it from here itself. You will get to see the rest of the functionalities or the navigation tools still, right? So we are interested in our customer details report, and with respect to our customer details report, we need to come up with our new parameter, right? So again, modeling field will or the modeling ribbon will be having this new parameter option, and now we need to import some important fields, right? So we have to name it as we should name it as customer metric solution, right? Customer metric solution. Okay, and now we can drag some fields or drop it. So first of all, I am interested in average revenue per customer, right? That is going to be the first field in which I'm quite interested at. And secondly, total customers. Okay, these are the only two fields in which we are quite interested at. That is average revenue per customer and total customers. And we should make sure that we are having a proper tick option associated with respect to this option, that is add slicer to this page. As by adding the slicer only, we will get to have this functionality wherein we can choose these two parameters and we can see the changes happening onto the rest of the visual, right? Let me create it. Let us see what exactly is happening. At the backend, Power BI will be creating a tax code for it, and it will be coming up with a proper table with these measurements, right? Once we are done with this, we will be bringing in some space so that we can simply align it. Now we need to add a parameter as a slicer. We need to add the parameter as a slicer to the customer detail report. Change the slicer style to tile, turn off the header, update to single select, and resize to create a horizontal layout. Let us go step by step, one step at a time. Okay. So first of all, we need to add the parameter to the customer detail report. We already did it. And the second thing we need to come up with is to change the slicer style to tile, right? Let us get into Power BI. We need to change the slicer tile to style. Let us double click on it. With respect to slicer settings, we need to convert it into a tile format. Okay. And then we need to come up with a proper horizontal layout. First of all, we should turn off the header, right? Slicer header should be turned off. Update to single select selection. With respect to the selection, you can have this multiple options. You can multi-select, you can come up with the select all option, or you can come up with single select only. Okay. Once you are done with this, let me move forward with resizing it to create a horizontal layout. Okay. So we need to bring in some space over here. A kind of horizontal layout we can see at this point only. And what we can exactly do is that I'm having some space over here, right? Okay. We have created some space with respect to our card itself, and now we can see the average revenue per customer or total customers. So we can see a kind of horizontal layout, right? There is no need to there is no need to stretch it till the whole end, and a kind of horizontal layout we are already having, and we can see this multiple tiles kind of option. So either we can come up with average revenue per customer, or we can come up with total customers, right? Now, if you want to come up with some formatting as well, you can come up with it. It's completely up to you. And with respect to total customers or average revenue per customer, whatever insight you want to look upon, you can simply look upon that. Now we need to bring in some changes into my customer trending, right? So I won't be exactly using in my y-axis as the total customers. Instead of that, I will be using my y-axis as this field parameter. Okay. So we have named it as customer metric solution, right? This table which is already being created. So we simply need to come up with this measurement over here itself into our y-axis, right? And now with respect to the total customers, we can see some insight in a similar way with respect to average revenue per customer. We can see some insight, right? Let us see the variation in the graph. We can see that a slicer is able to make the changes into the line chart, and that is what we are quite interested at, right? Now we need to bring in some changes. We need to bring the changes into the color of the line chart, which will be showing us that what is the revenue we are generating. And just because both of the insights seem quite fine, right? If the average revenue per customer is increasing, that is also fine. And if the total number of customers are increasing, again, that is a kind of great news. So the color we will be keeping is going to be gray itself. We won't be keeping the color to be reddish. Okay. So now let me look into the requirements. So we have solved our second key objective as well. Then we need to select the DAX measure, automatically create, update the text from average revenue per customer to revenue per customer. Okay, can do it. Let me get into my customer metric solution. Now you can see with respect to our customer metric solution, we have named our measurement as average revenue per customer, and we should name it as revenue per customer. So average you have to remove. A small change you need to bring in. Let us see what changes we are able to see over here. Now you can see that into our slicer itself, we are not able to see average revenue per customer, but we are able to see revenue per customer, right? And then total customers we are having. Okay, some good insight we are having. Then we can look upon the details wherein now we need to select. Okay, we are done with the third key objective as well. Then we need to update the chart y-axis to use the customer metric parameter, right? So we need to update the line chart y-axis to use the customer metric selection parameter and remove the chart title and update the line colors to match the solution preview. Okay, we did the first thing, that is to update the line chart y-axis to update the customer metric selection parameter. Then we should remove the chart title. Okay, this is something we can do. And then we need to update the line colors to match the solution preview. First of all, one thing I need to do over here, and that is I can simply remove this title. Let me double click on object formatting. Let me click over here. Let us remove this. Okay, you can simply remove the whole title, right? That's completely up to you. You can simply turn it off. Okay. Now, once you are done with this, let us see our solution walkthrough, solution preview. Okay, they are asking us that first of all, we should have this total customers and revenue per customer. And when I'm selecting total customers, so the increase in the total customers is coming out to be a great news. So that's why we can keep it, or it's not exactly, the color should be completely chosen on this specific solution preview basis only. So whenever I'm going to choose total customers, so at that point of time, I want the line color to be grayish. And then when I'm choosing revenue per customer, then the line color should be in a blue color, right? Let us go forward with this. With respect to my total customers, I want the color to be shown in a grayish format, right? Let me double click over here. Let us bring in some changes to here itself. Color, I need to choose as grayish. Okay. And with respect to revenue per customer, the color can be shown like this, blue. Okay, we're done with this, right? They are Okay, so now we are having a proper slicer, which is showing the revenue per customer and total customers. By making the use of the slicer option itself, you can see the changes happening onto your line chart, right? That's exactly how you can work with the that's how exactly how you can work with the parameters or the field parameters. And that would be all the solution walkthrough of our final assignment. And let us meet in the next video with some more important insights. So thank you.